Okay, guys, we're going to get right into this video and get it started. Let's go through it real quick. So, here are my predictions going into 2024 as to what's going to happen with Social Security benefits. And I'm getting a lot of online emails from people saying, hey, where's this whole thing going? What kind of money am I going to get? Am I going to get any extra checks? Am I going to get any additional stimulus options my way? And what people are really getting at is the program going to be fine? Are things going to get worse? Are they going to get better? How would a potential crisis change things? So, let me go through some of the basics of what I know is likely to happen. Then we can always kind of talk about the bigger things of what we don't know will actually happen. So, number one, first and foremost, howdy, guys. Howdy, Carolyn Cruz, Deb Carter, Slatherings, Kathleen Fulton, very good. Howdy from New Jersey, excellent. So, here's the deal. Senators will demand fixes to the Social Security Administration overpayment clawbacks. This is their big moment to go ahead and be part of the solution. And their big solution, just so you know what it is, it's not much. It's them sending a letter to the SSA with your basic questions. And they're always the same questions asked in a different way. It's always a question about what new procedures they're putting in place. It's a question about why haven't they been doing these procedures to begin with? It's a question about how did this get so bad? It's a question about the future of how they will continuously stay on top of it. It's always the same questions. They're always the same way over and over and over again. Okay, cool. Now, with that said, as they go through this process, I think the SSA will become more lenient in 2024 when it comes to Social Security overpayments, especially for forgiveness and the process of forgiveness. And they will basically counter a lot of these issues that are arising right now with this expedited forgiveness to lessen the backlog and multi-billion dollar number. Because remember, at the end of the day, the SSA isn't like on the hook of like being like, oh, we have to get this money back right away because we're running out of money. They're not in that mental position. They're in the position of we're owed multiple billions of dollars from over 2 million people. How do we reduce the amount of people? How do we reduce the amount that's owed back? If they improve those two numbers, then whatever the senators, whatever the House reps are whining about, that will basically be their cue to say we are dealing with it. There are fewer people with overpayments now, and there's a smaller amount of overpayments that are due back. Okay. And then, of course, the throw in on that would be we've found that we've now gotten fewer and fewer people to have larger overpayments. So they'll be able to prove and show basically that these individuals that were getting overpayments are now getting smaller overpayments. Number two on this list of things that I think will happen going into 2024 when it comes to Social Security benefits will be President Biden will likely go through an impeachment. I'm not making that statement lightly. I'm also not making this statement in support of it or against it. And I'll tell you basically the two reasons why. Um, President Biden will likely go through the impeachment and will refocus his efforts away from Social Security, the administration, the functions of it, basically his push until he is months away from the reelection option. Now, that's if he survives a potential impeachment. It could drag out for an extended period. If he doesn't survive a potential impeachment, then of course we look to what comes next. And that's a whole different video. Now, we learned from Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton taught us a lot of lessons. The changes that help the SSA will be in Biden's back pocket, and he'll hold on to them to see what will happen during the impeachment process. We've also tended to learn, so basically expect these ideas, these changes, these modifications, this chess game from President Biden. If an impeachment occurs and it starts getting down the line, expect him to whip these out in May or June of 2024. Now, Bill Clinton taught us that when a president goes through an impeachment, the president quasi blames the people because the people hired these representatives, and these representatives are doing this to the president. So bottom line, it's the people's fault. And when that happens, a lot of the for the people legislation, it gets pulled back, right? Nothing's happening with it. Nothing's going to happen with it because the president is now refocusing on protecting his or her, well, I guess in this case, his career. Okay. Now, with that said, I think there is a like a trick card or like a not sure what's going to happen card in this whole thing. So hear me out on this. President Biden will use the full potential power of future Commissioner Martin O'Malley as a sounding board, kind of like a Zelensky figure appearing before Congress to ask more money for the Social Security Administration to be able to go ahead and not only just, focus its efforts, like, battle this massive backlog. It'll basically be like a Zelensky thing for Ukraine, except in this sense, it'll be Martin O'Malley with the Social Security Administration. Now, if the impeachment is successful, the SSA will not change unless Martin O'Malley throws his hat in the arena for 2025, which is always a potential. Don't think that couldn't potentially occur. Remember, he was a potential previous presidential contender. If this happens, expect sweeping changes to the benefits of beneficiaries, which will likely install a Democrat win for 2025, the likes of which no contender can sidestep a 71 million recipient, voting push that will come from that. And just think about it. I know what you're thinking. How could this possibly be? Think about it for a moment. If Martin O'Malley goes into the SSA as the new commissioner at the end of this year to fix the SSA, right? Commissioner Kijikazi is pulled out, Commissioner Martin O'Malley is put in, right? If that happens, and then an impeachment occurs and Biden loses it, right? And we go through our normal political structure of like who gets to be president next and who gets to be president, all that stuff. Then in that case, Martin O'Malley is in a prime political role to be able to be the great soundbite of how we can fix the Social Security Administration. Except remember, he's a Democrat, which means that he's going to be pushing heavily for the support of other Democrats to rally the cry to save the Social Security Administration. The Republicans don't have it in like that. They don't have a commissioner that basically was a former presidential potential, running individual. They don't have somebody in the Social Security Administration that's really, pumping and priming for the Republicans to be successful. The bottom line is Republicans have a really negative history with Social Security benefits when it comes to reducing the benefits or changing the benefits in a negative way for the recipient. So the problem is the Republicans really don't have a good chess maneuver in this situation. Now, I don't say that because I'm trying to go a particular way, this way or that way. T-Paw, thank you for the donation. By the way, I'm gonna call you tomorrow. I gave you a few days of vacation. So I'm gonna call you tomorrow because there's an important thing that popped up that I have to clear with you. Anyways, just expect a call from me. But thank you for the $50 donation. That's absolutely amazing. That's amazing. I will be using a chunk of that for the piggy dogs, and they are so happy. I literally watched a movie today, and I was just looking at Shadow, which is he's like this little tiny monster, viciously adorable. And I was just like, man, I could sit here and pet this dog for 1,000 years and it still wouldn't be enough. But T-Pod, thank you again for that. That's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I guess what I would say is this, and I think this is important. The chess game being played by the Democrats is smart. It's very smart. And I don't always know what's going to happen. Like nobody does except for the people playing the real chess behind the billionaires that back these politicians, and the politicians, they know what's going to happen, or at least the direction that they want it to go. Right. And then they pivot from there. They wiggle and waggle and pivot, and they do all that stuff. So if we look at this, and I didn't see this maneuver until recently, what's happening is President Biden, if anything happens, is setting up somebody who could potentially be the savior of the SSA, have a bunch of very pro-claimant-based rules and regulations that are put out there, making it more lenient, more easy to access these benefits. If that individual, future commissioner, we'll just say future commissioner because he's got enough votes on the Republican side and the Democrat side, future commissioner Martin O'Malley, if he were to start promoting the ideology of less immigration, more Social Security benefits, you would see a rapid political change in where people are standing. Okay. And what's interesting about this idea is that I could not think of any Republican plan that would be able to counter that in any real meaningful way. And I thought about it for a while because remember, you've got basically Florida governor attacking Nikki. Nikki's coming out with things that the billionaires like, which hurts Social Security for its recipients. And then basically you've got, DeSantis trying to say, no, I love the benefits. I want the benefits to continue. I don't want to touch them, blah, 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 all this stuff. He's basically like, copy paste of, our prior president. And the prior president's whole ideology with this is that we've got enough natural gas, oil, diesel, whatever in the ground in this country that we will be able to afford Social Security benefits going forward, which is not incorrect. That's not incorrect. That is accurate. But there should be a plan in there somewhere about how this country will become massively successful with its investments, and then how much of that money will come from the oil industry to go ahead and supply it. Because what I'm seeing is rapid transformation away from traditional fossil fuels. I understand that it's not rapid enough for some people, but just to be fair, we would still not have electric cars, but for Elon. We wouldn't. I mean, we'd have them, but you know what I mean, right? They wouldn't be cool. They wouldn't be like sexy and shiny and awesome and zippity doo faster than a Porsche while towing a Porsche. That we wouldn't have that. You know what I mean? Because remember, when a product comes out, in order for it to take over an industry, it's got to be cooler. It's got to be sexier. It's got to be worth the cash to get into that. And that's what he's done. So I don't see fossil fuels as like if this were 1980 and, past President Trump was like, hey, we're going to go with this. This should save us. We'll be fine. We'll pull back from OPEC. We'll do everything right. Then I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But in the modern day, and I realize that in order to power these vehicles, we need to have coal plants and, basically, any type of power production plants that are out there. I get that. I totally agree. I understand that. But just hear me out. We are constantly having new forms of energy. And I'm not talking about solar. I'm not talking about wind. I am talking about we're like one breakthrough away. And we actually, technically, we have already had the breakthrough. Now we just need to basically make it more efficient. We know how to make fusion. We know how to do it. We're just not great at it yet. But when we have fusion, nobody's going to give a shit about coal. Nobody's going to care about gasoline or diesel. Nobody's going to care at all about that stuff. Like, why would you care when you have fusion? We have fission right now. Shitty fission. That's like where we burn fossil fuels. When we have the power of what the sun can do with fusion, ain't nobody going to care about gasoline. Nobody's going to care about diesel fuel, heavy fuel, no natural gas. Nobody is going to care at all. Is this whole argument of like, is it a clean energy? Nobody's going to care because fusion will be this ridiculously incredible thing. And then once we get cold fusion, it's over. There's at that point, there will never ever be a use for fossil fuels in the future other than as a lubricant, which is exactly what diesel was originally created to be, which is kind of ironic. Now, number 3 point, the cost of living will keep going up, but the value of the dollar devaluing, right, at this rapid pace, that's going to continue to slow. This means that being on disability benefits will be a unique knife's edge point of the system, right? It could fall this way, it could fall that way, So what's happening is we have to look at those who are working, who are becoming part-time workers because their impairments are too severe. Now, as a result of this, the percentage of those who are part-time working and choosing to continue to part-time work will probably continue to part-time work because the value of a disability check at $1,400 is just not valuable enough in the modern economy. And the big reason is the cost of food. It's not the cost of fuel. It's the cost of food that has significantly devalued SSI and SSDI benefits, like disability benefits, where people are like, if I could just work a little bit more, then what would happen is, just to be fair with this thing, they're going to continue to keep pushing and working because it doesn't make sense to go on disability for financial purposes anymore. Like if you have a kid that's never worked a day in their life, right, and they've never known a job, they've never known more money, sure, it's going to psychologically make sense for that individual. But if you have somebody who's been working their whole life, they're going to be like, I will hold out another year because I cannot live on that small amount of money. And let's not forget, everybody that like used to have savings, that world doesn't exist anymore. There's no more like pensions like there used to be. There's none of that stuff. There's not a lot of people put much into the 401k because they don't have it. You know what I mean? They didn't have it to begin with because they weren't getting paid that much. So like the landscape is changing in America. Okay. Now, with that said, no matter what, being on disability will evolve into a program of last resort, kind of like SSI is. And SSI will just become this like nobody really wants to be on it unless it's truly just something you have no other choice. There's absolutely no potential of being on anything else. It is the last resort of last resort where you have no other option, right? The reason will be that a person wouldn't want to go on these programs due to a life of poverty they would be absolutely chained to for the rest of their existence, unless they hit retirement. But then, even then, their retirement's going to be equivalent to their SSDI benefits for the most part. Now, this could reduce the significant amount, not in the immediate sense, but you'll start to see it in 2024 of applicants in the future. However, if I were a betting man, which I traditionally am not, I don't bet. I just don't. I don't. Like I want to bet on horses. I don't do that stuff. If I were a betting man, the US dollar reserve currency used internationally will devalue as first world competing nations begin to take control of their trade currencies, thereby dethroning the US dollar and creating basically a massive quick devaluation of our currency that we use to buy, you got it, their stuff, right? So when this happens, people won't be able to find jobs because people won't be able to buy the products and everything will be so expensive that products made in China will be considered like a fake luxury, right? And the average American will see their ability to find jobs supporting those products and supporting those services. They'll dwindle over time. And if this happens, disability will become extremely popular as some money is better than no money. But you'll still have those with a job that will hold on to it as much as they can because they'll know that little bit of disability money isn't going to be worth it. And that's what happens when the COLA isn't actually represented properly, the cost of living adjustment and it going up. You get to a point where like you're in the green, everything's cool. All right, people are getting less per year. People are unhappy, but whatever. Then you get to the yellow point, right? Where the yellow point is like, okay, people are really starting to notice. They don't have enough money. This is not going well. And then you get to the red. The red zone is where we're about to approach this crappy, terrible area where the money is literally just not enough for the SSDI people. For the SSI people, it's already not enough. Like you can't rent your own trailer and eat food for $914 per month. The SSDI people with around, $1,200, $1,400, $1,600, $1,800, whatever it is that you're getting, they're in that yellow zone. But it is becoming very soon a transitional period to the red zone. Now, okay, so here's my deal with the wait times. I think they will increase unless they temporarily stop the reconsideration adjudication level for SSI and SSDI benefit applications. So expect, I think, a slight increase to around 16 months from the 15.5 months waiting period that it is around right now. Okay. I remember that's like 15.5 months you initially file. You go through 15.5 months until you get a denial or approval. Okay. Old school truck driver, I see you there. Yeah, remember, guys, when you have memberships, I can see you in the right top chat more easily because it's really tough to see what you write unless they like highlight it and do a different color. And that's what they do at that whole membership thingy. But you don't have to buy into it. I'm just saying that's like, I can see you better when it's like that. Okay, now real quick, number 5, someone in 2024 will come out with the fix, I believe, for the trust funds. It's the missing link that we will couple together with better investing to save the program. I don't know what this fix is going to be. Yes, I've seen all the current solutions. I've even seen that mathematical program that allows for us to like wiggle waggle and try and figure out a solution based off of what we can put in and take out. but I don't think we've had the Rosetta Stone. I don't think we've had the missing block to this particular situation yet. I think it still has to be invented. Number 6, 2024 will have similar antics. So you will notice your anxiety, depression, and fear at higher levels. Remember to take a moment and analyze what you have versus what you need. It's okay to think about the theories on where things are going, especially if they are far fetched. Everybody loves the like out there thing, right? But remember how those things affect you is what's important. Plan on the little changes in your life's route. Don't focus on the anger you have for one person or another. Okay. Now, movie theaters and malls will likely start going out of business in 2024. This doesn't really affect most of you, but just be aware if there was some mall, food, or store you wanted to walk into or walk through that giant, hallway that they have, consider doing it over the next couple of months before we get into the 2024 antics. Now, number 8, expect medical offloading to become more present. And that's where physicians send you to a different physician because your case workup will cost them too much money without additional earnings options. So basically, you're getting shoved off to another doctor, right? I know that's happened to a lot of you guys. Just expect that to increase. So just expect to be bounced around a bit more. I guess I mean that, across the board too, with kind of professionals. Expect professionals such as lawyers, doctors, and such to have less time for you going into the future. We are at a point where you can't demand the professionals to see more clients in the time that they have. So they are already earning too little per file. So before you go on the soapbox rant about how back in the day, yada, 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 like I get it. I do get it. I understand it. But just realize the educations aren't worth the student loans at this point. And the student loans have made multiple generations of those, without a savings account. That's what it is. If you have to pay student loans, you can't save. Like that, they go hand in hand. That's how that works. So, and I'm not saying it's your fault, but it will potentially affect you negatively. So just realize you're going to need to use online resources more and more as industries start to see an exodus from professionals seeking a standard of living that can at least get them a house to live in. Just so you guys know, when I got my house, I could only do it because I got a loan or I get a gift from my parents to add to the loan. Like otherwise I wouldn't be able to actually afford the house. Like it's that bad. That's how student loans are. Like my student loans per month are usually over $1,800 a month, which is shocking to some people. Like when they're like watching like Dave Ramsey and they're like, Dave Ramsey really made fun of that guy who had $100,000, student loan, note. And I'm just sitting there like laughing. I'm like, $100,000, dude, to be where I'm at, to have what I have is $500,000. It's like, what's this kiddie crap of $100,000? Would you go to like a cheap college? Give me a break. And that's the reality. I don't think, and here I go, I'm going to get off of it real quick. I do not believe college should cost money. I think masters should. I think doctorates should. I don't believe colleges should cost money. I just don't. Next one, number 9, expect news stations to continue to lay off people. Having, 10 research analysts, film crews, audio crews, and all that jazz just doesn't work anymore. The money isn't there for that. And so here's the deal with this whole situation. They can't get enough sponsors for, basically enough money. And as a result of that, they can't get enough viewers. So the viewers aren't there's not enough viewers, so they can't get the bigger sponsors to pay more money, and then they just have to cut and cancel staff. PM channel, I see a donation there. Thank you for the $5 donation. Let's see. On initial filing, should I hire a lawyer or wait for a reply? Here's what I say. If you can find an attorney to take on the initial filing, you should. But remember, attorneys are smart about what happens with initial filings. For SSDI people, the first 5 months and the month you are found disabled, they don't count. So basically 6 months of that initial process, if you don't look at retroactive benefits, could potentially mean no back pay. So that disability attorney is basically working for the first 6 months, essentially for free, which sucks. We do it all the time. We file people because I like to see what they're going to put on the form so that I can correct them, change that. We got to swap out a page. We swap out a page. Most attorneys will not do this because it's financially stupid for us to do that. It's financially a bad idea. We do it because we see an increase of approvals down the line because you guys don't get to put down the crazy terrible comments that you put down on those forums. Like I'm always sitting there amazed. Like I'll read through one of the initial filings and I'll be, and then here's what happens. Like call a claimant up. I'm like, okay, so you put this, like, what did you mean by that? And then they explain it to me. And maybe that clarifies it, or maybe it just makes it even worse. But the point is, then I have to like explain to them, like, if you put this, this will occur. So I do filings. I initially file people. It's a hell of a lot more extra work to add to the pile, but I see good results as a result of it. But most firms don't want to touch that stuff. So, okay. Now, with that said, with these news stations that are losing staff, expect attempts for big news to try and legally change channels, like even this one, and other professionals who give you direct scoop from those practicing within the industry. Because remember, this is a direct competition to essentially those news stations, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. This is a direct competition to their news station. So expect them to start attacking whatever news stations they think they can knock out. Number 10, expect massive manipulation of ideas over the next year. Remember, people fight over things that literally have nothing to do with their daily activities. It's weird. They like get into it over things that have nothing to do with what they're going to be doing. So just understand that when people get heated over stuff, realize that you, okay, just to solidify, are going to be in another situation, not having to deal with all of that in the next 5 minutes if you allow yourself to do that. And the reason I say this to a lot of the disabled people and retired people that watch this channel, the SSA hires investigators to investigate people. And sometimes the statements you make when you're angry create amazing evidence for those investigators to potentially say that you're not as disabled as you claim you are. And so it's important as a disabled person to try to remember the bad things that can happen from a police report that can negatively impact essentially, how you are as a disabled person receiving a check. So I just want to put that out there because 2024 is going to have a lot of people angry with a lot of people. Don't be part of that. Protect yourself and don't be part of that. The next video we're going to be going into, which I think is a really cool video. It's not something that we've ever really gone into, and it's not something that's not published out there. We're going to be talking about disability potential bias towards particular impairments. Now, I always talk about no judges are really super duper excited about fibromyalgia claims and stuff like that. But what we're going to be doing is going through essentially how we could map out the potential bias that exists and then figure out how to win more claims for those that experience more bias based off of that map. So it's a thinking video. Now, please remember to like. Don't be stingy with the like button. Click subscribe. Hit the all button. Don't forget to go to Google and leave a review. Disability Resolution Florida or Disability Resolution Law Firm. There are memberships. I can see you guys in the chat section. It's just harder to see you. Like my eyes go straight to old school truck driver because his is lit up different. But I will catch you guys a little bit later. Please have a wonderful night, and you'll be seeing me in about 10 minutes. All right. I'll catch you a little bit later and we'll go from there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.